This is a SandyBoy Productions podcast.
Welcome to the Urban Pharmacy Podcast, where we help women remove the overwhelm of living their most holistic life. This is the place to find evidence-based nutrition tactics, healthy lifestyle and wellness tips, abundance mindset, and easily implementable low-tox living strategies so you can rise up to your full potential and protect your family's health. I'm your host, Stacey, certified holistic nutritionist and better living advocate. Now, let's get empowered with some simple swaps that make a big impact for optimal wellness.
All right, before we get into the episode, I have a huge announcement, something I'm so very excited to share with you. And guess what? It's because you know me. I am the girl that is here to help you reduce your environmental toxins, to help you live a more clean lifestyle, to protect the planet, and to feel more confident in your skin, right? And speaking of skin, Beautycounter is offering their Black Friday sale right now, and I want to give you all of the details from body to skincare to cosmetics. The entire site is 20% off. Not only that, but you're gonna get free shipping on $50 orders or more. And if you spend $250, here's the big thing. You get 30% off. So right now is the time to stock up on better beauty. Beautycounter is a B Corporation with equal emphasis put on people, product, and planet. And this is where you want to put your dollars. You want to vote with your dollars and shift the toxic industry to a safer place. And right now is your opportunity to do that. In addition, you're gonna get some really great results from the anti-aging line if that's what you're looking for, or you're gonna have flawless looking skin when you use the cosmetics. Promise you, you will not be sad about the performance. You will be very blown away, and you'll probably be coming back for more. So with that said, make sure that you add the membership to your cart if you haven't already, and really reap all of the bonuses and the benefits of this sale. Again, this sale only goes through the end of November, so make sure that you stock up and that you take advantage. And don't be afraid to come back for more because of the free shipping on $50 orders. Think about friends, think about family, think about teacher gifts. There's so many different holiday options that you can break up and make the cutest little gifts. I'm doing that with some non-toxic candles and some CBD bath bombs. And I'm just making really awesome little bags and stuff for co-op teachers, in addition to adding our elderberry syrup in there. And I'm gonna give them to our forest school teachers as well. So just think outside of the Beautycounter box and really make some awesome low tox gifts this year. And don't forget to gift yourself, of course. All right, here we are with the episode. Have fun shopping. Welcome back to the Urban Pharmacy Podcast. Today I have an incredible guest and somebody who's kind of on my bucket list in terms of getting onto this podcast, because he's an incredible human being and has been a huge inspiration for me and a really amazing wealth of knowledge and a source of education as I journey through my holistic nutrition venture and help clients transform their health. And Dr. Klaper is just one of the best mentors that I have had, and also had the pleasure of meeting in real life. But let me tell you more about him right now. Michael Klaper is a graduate of the University of Illinois College of Medicine in Chicago. He has practiced acute care medicine in Hawaii, Canada, California, Florida, and New Zealand. And for the past 35 years has been focusing upon health promoting food and lifestyle choices to help reverse disease and prevent the need for hospitalization and surgery. A long time ago, he was a radio host and a pilot. And Dr. Klaper has served as nutrition advisor to NASA's programs for space colonists on the moon and Mars. At his website, drklaper.com, visitors can find practical insights into nutrition and healthy living through his numerous articles and videos, as well as subscribe to his free newsletter, Medicine Capsule. Along with an active telemedicine practice, Dr. Klaper's passion and professional focus is his Moving Medicine Forward initiative to incorporate the teaching of applied nutrition into medical school education worldwide. I took his nutrition masterclass that he put together for medical professionals, and I was incredibly blown away. And in this conversation, Dr. Klaper and I talk about nutrition, and we learn about some of the things that you might not know about when it comes to animal products and consuming them. And really, we're just here to help you gain awareness and how to protect your health in the biggest way. I hope that you love this episode. If you do, please share it. Make sure that you give us a review. All right, here he is, Dr. Klaper. Dr. Michael Klaper, thank you so much for sharing your wisdom and time here on the Urban Pharmacy Podcast. Welcome.
Oh, thank you so much for the invitation. It's a delight to be with you and your viewers.
All right, so I have a grab bag of questions for you today regarding mostly nutrition, but I want to know about you first, especially for the people who do not know about how incredible you are yet. Can you give me a little scope of your journey into lifestyle medicine and how you got to where you are today with your profession?
Well, thanks for the invitation. I'm a classically trained Western physician. I graduated from the University of Illinois College of Medicine in Chicago 50 years ago, 1972. I can't believe how fast those went by. And for the first 10 years of my medical career, I practiced conventional blood and guts medicine, emergency rooms, operating rooms, general practice offices, urgent care clinics. But I got very discouraged after 10 years. I realized all I'm doing is managing chronic diseases. I'm just chasing numbers. I'm watching the patient's weight go up. You ought to lose some weight, Joe. I didn't have the faintest idea how to do it, but you ought to lose some weight. I'm watching the blood sugars go up as the diabetes got out of control, the blood pressure's going up, their cholesterol levels going up, and the type and strength of medications I'm using going up. I'm prescribing more and more insulin and anti-inflammatories, but all the while, the people are just getting more obese and ill. They're winding up in the ER with their strokes and their heart attacks. And man, what am I doing? Nobody's getting healthier, and I felt like a fraud. And so I got so discouraged, I left general practice and decided to become an anesthesiologist, and did the better part of a residency in anesthesia at Vancouver General Hospital in BC. And while on the cardiovascular anesthesia service, I'm putting people to sleep day after day with clogged arteries, and I'm watching surgeons open their chest and open the arteries in their heart and pull this yellow, greasy guck out, called atherosclerosis. And that's the cause of their heart attacks and their strokes. And I had a real interest in this because my dad died of clogged arteries. I know I've got those genes, and I was eating the standard Western diet too. And I knew if I didn't change something, there's going to be me on that operating table with that striker saw going up my sternum. And I sure didn't want that to happen. I saw those folks when they woke up. They're very uncomfortable.
Oh, yeah.
And already there were articles in the medical journals that you can reverse this disease with a plant-based diet. And a couple other bolts from the blue made it very evident to me, a couple of health scares, that I needed to change my diet. So I did. And I adopted a diet on whole plant foods and oatmeal and fruit for breakfast, and lunches and dinners, these colorful salads and hearty vegetable soups and stews, and the casseroles and chilies and curries. It's a glorious cuisine. But my body loved it. Within 12 weeks, a 20-pound spare tire of fat melted off my waist. My high blood pressure went to normal. My high cholesterol went to normal. I felt great waking up in a nice lean body every day. And at that point, I realized I didn't want to be an anesthesiologist anymore and spend my career putting people to sleep. I'd rather go back to general practice and help them wake up, right?
I love that.
And so I did. And those people, I found some people in the area who could do plant-based cooking lessons, and I would send my patient to them. And those who adopted that diet experienced the same wonderful changes. They got leaner, their high blood pressures came down, their diabetes got better. They turned into normal, healthy people right before my eyes. And I became the happiest doctor I know. My patients get healthy. And of course, this is the same time as the emergence of the official recognition of lifestyle medicine, which is the only specialty that gets to the source of diseases. When I tell people I'm in lifestyle medicine, that's California woo-woo stuff, that yoga and incense. No, doctor, it's the most powerful medicine of all, because it will reverse these diseases that the surgeons and the internists are just trying to patch the leaks in the patient's health situation. No, this actually gets people healthy. And so plant-based diet with the other lifestyle pillars, you get enough sleep, exercise, social support, good work, stress reduction, the usual collar of good practices that go. But the whole food plant-based diet is at the center. If you're eating cheeseburgers and buffalo wings, you can do all the yoga and meditation you want, but your arteries are going to pay the price there. So I've been a plant-based doc for the last going on 40 years. And as I said, it's just been wonderful to see the awareness of plant-based medicine kindle in the minds and hearts of doctors all over the world. We go to the Plantrition Project meeting once a year, and doctors from every country, from India and Indonesia and Ireland and Australia, New Zealand, Canada, and they all know what I know. They've all seen the same thing. The awareness of plant-based nutrition is burgeoning, around the world in the minds of forward-thinking health professionals. But there are still big forces in place, of course, from the agricultural industry and the pharmaceutical industry and the medical industry, etc., to keep things as they are. Lots of people making lots of money off of stents and bypasses. And so it's a matter of educating the public to change what they're ordering in their restaurant, change what they're putting in that cart at the supermarket. And that's why I was so pleased to get the invitation to appear on your podcast, because you guys, the communicators, are now a prime link in the chain here. Now we've got enough studies showing that plant-based diets bring down high blood pressures and cholesterol. We need to get this out to the public to make it cool and acceptable and delicious and desirable, and just what you eat. We need to make it normal. And that's where communicators like you come in. So it's wonderful to be sharing this with you and your listeners. Thank you. Long answer, but that's basically how
this is so good. So is that what you mean when you talk about pharmacosclerosis? Is that what you said?
Pharmacosclerosis. I want to reach the...
Yeah, really. The big industries are keeping us sick, and it's just, okay. Is that, elaborate on that a little bit?
Yeah, that's I realized, I wish, this knowledge was out there when I was in med school. I wish someone had told me that type 2 diabetes is a reversible disease, that hypertension, high blood pressure is a reversible disease. You can open up clogged arteries. I wish someone had told me that. It would have changed the course of my medical career, would have changed every diagnosis I made, every treatment plan I recommended. And I'm thinking, somebody needs to reach the first, second, and third year med students and tell them this, so they can start and put that lens up, and they, when they take in their clinical information, but what are the patient eating and how can we improve that? And I'm thinking somebody should tell the young medical students this before pharmacosclerosis sets in their brain. They think that drugs and surgery are the only treatment, statins and insulin. And somebody should, and a little voice says, "How about you, doctor?" Instead of somebody.
Love that.
And and that's where our Moving Medicine Forward initiative came to be. I started going to the nation's medical schools and giving the lecture what I wish I had learned in medical school about nutrition. And I talk about the science. Here is why a plant-based diet reverses high blood pressure. Here's why it reverses diabetes. Here's how it melts wax. Show me the science. These young students are interested. I show them the science. And And it's having a wonderful effect. You can't unring the bell. Once they hear it, they've heard it. And so we're developing momentum on that level, because my noble profession is a real bottleneck in the widespread acceptance of healthy eating. Doctors don't know anything about nutrition. They don't mention it to their patients. They just let them keep eating the burgers and buffalo wings. They just take more and more medications. That's really a ineffective medicine, to be charitable, but it's really unethical, knowing what we know and not sharing this with the patients. They just can't be allowed to stand. We've got to really break that model up and at least empower the patients, that understanding that every meal makes a difference in their body.
Yeah, it really does. And I will just give you a little bit of hope in regards to lifestyle medicine. They've actually created, and I've joined the Indiana. I'm in Indiana, and now we have an Indiana lifestyle medicine group. And it just started a few months ago, maybe 6 months ago, maybe a little longer, but we're moving it forward. It's small, but we're going to move it forward. So it's not just associated.
Is it associated with
ACLM
University?
Well, it's associated with ACLM, I'm pretty sure.
So good, but it's through through the hospitals and the university there?
Yes.
Is that who's doing it? It's not just a freestanding.
We're working to infiltrate the hospitals at this moment.
Yes,
so that's what we're working on. Yeah.
That's what needs to happen. This is a bottom-up revolution. Absolutely.
Yeah. So boots on the ground, we have to start somewhere. We're very small. But okay, so I have so many questions in regards to nutrition itself. I want to ask you first, though, before we move on, just because I know that this evolution for you, moving toward plant-based, wasn't only the fact that you were cutting people open and seeing these atherosclerotic plaques and saturated fat and cholesterol issues. You also grew up around animal agriculture. So can you just explain a little bit about your experience there so that we can get a little insight on what is happening? And then also, because I'm in the holistic world, whatever that might mean to you. I have a lot of friends, and we do organic farming. We sell at the farmer's market. We do produce. Okay. We sell all plants. But a lot of our friends, they're animal agriculture farmers and stuff like that. And while that might be, I don't know, is it better? We don't know. We'll talk about that. What is it really like to be with the animals on the farm? What are they going through, especially with dairy?
Sure. Well, during the 1950s, when I grew up, every summer the great polio epidemics would roll through the cities, and a lot of people would get paralyzed. So my mother had an uncle with a dairy farm up in northern Wisconsin. So as soon as school got out in early June, the next day we were on a train or in a car riding up to northern Wisconsin. And I spent my first 16 summers on my uncle's dairy farm, and milking cows and driving tractors and swinging hay bales and getting exposed to the natural world. It was a wonderful, wonderful addition to my life. But a lot of things happened on the dairy farm that I didn't understand as an 8-year-old boy, but I sure understand it now. My uncle had 49 dairy cows, and I would milk them, and we'd pour the milk into the big cans, and the man with the truck from the dairy would come and pick them up in the morning. And this was just the flow of the dairy production that I was in. But so there were some strange things going on in the barn. And what would happen that I now realize is that when one of the dairy cows became fertile, she was ovulating, we would lock her up in a stanchion. We'd call the man from Badger Breeders, and he would come out and he would put on a big long rubber glove up to his shoulder, grease it up, and ram his arm into the cow's rectum all the way up to the shoulder. No cow liked that procedure. Through the rectal wall, he would grab the cervix of the opening into the cow's uterus through the rectal wall. And with his other free hand, the left hand, he would take this long tube of bull semen and ram it up her vagina into the cervix that he was holding with through the rectal hand, and squeeze the bulb, and the squirt of bull semen would come out, and and the cow would conceive. And no cow liked that procedure, you can put the graphics in your own head there. if she had been lactating, giving milk, she within a week or so she would dry up. She would stop lactating. There's a good reason that why pregnant mammals don't lactate. They don't give milk. And my uncle would write down, Bossy 17 won't be milked again until she has her calf in the spring, and they put down the estimated date. And then the cow would then carry her pregnancy for 9 months, like a human mother would then finally go into labor. She would, the sounds of that, when I helped many calves come out. And they're cute little baby calves, and they want their mommy and they want to suckle. They're hungry. They're a growing calf baby. But they're the enemy to my uncle, who wants that milk to send to the dairy. And so within 24 hours, you scoop the baby calf up, and if it's a boy, you put him in either of the calves, you put him in the pen down the way in the barn there. This was traumatic for the mother. The most painful auditory memories I have is the sound of a mother cow locked up in a stanchion with her newborn calf 10 yards away in the veal pen, and she bellows hour after hour, day after. It goes on for 4 or 5 days, most heart-rending, soul-tearing bellows, because she's a mother who just lost her baby there. And I realize this is absolutely essential. This cruel act is inherent in dairying. You've got to take the calf away if you want to suck the milk off yourself. So it's a cruel industry. It's a crime against the females of the species, from the forced insemination to the taking the baby away. If it's a little boy calf, they'll never give milk, no use to a dairy farmer. After 16 weeks, 4 months in that veal pen, they hang them up, shoot them in the head, and strip the flesh off and sell it as milk-fed veal. The veal industry is an essential spin-off of the dairy industry, because half the calves are male. And so if you're going to be producing milk, what are you doing with the male calves? You're cutting their throats, which is not a gentle thing to do. The female calves grow up to be four-legged milk pumps like their mother. And when I would walk in the dairy barn, there was always this air of sadness hanging over the cows in the dairy barn, and they have these big tears literally go I have a picture of it going down their cheeks. Now I realize they're all new mothers who just had their babies taken away from them. No wonder they are sad. And finally, no dairy cow dies of old age. They would normally live 25 years, but after 4 or 5 years of calves and milk, their milk production goes down. They become a waste of feed grain to the dairy farmer. So they call the truck from the slaughterhouse, and they take them to the slaughterhouse, shoot them in the head, bleed them, and strip the flesh off their bones. But because the meat from dairy cows isn't very appetizing in the meat case, they grind it up and sell it to the fast food industry for burgers. And so when you walk into McDonald's and order a Big Mac or Burger King, get a Whopper, what you're really eating is ground up old dairy cows. That's the end of the chain for milk production. So when people say, well, you don't have to kill the cow to get the milk, yes, you do. The dairy industry is a slaughter industry. The dairy barn is a short stopping off place on the way to the slaughterhouse to get a few years of calves and milk off these poor female mammals there. So it's a cruel industry. It's an assault against the females. And finally, one of the most disturbing things to me is modern dairying. Back in the 50s, as I said, when one of the cows, when we impregnated her, she stopped giving milk. There's biology, nothing my uncle could do, just no milk from her for 9 months. Well, we milked 49 cows. Today's modern dairy operations, they're milking 1,000, 1,500 cows twice a day. They can't afford to have their best milkers go offline for 9 months at a time. So the smart agricultural geneticists have now genetically modified the cows. They've GMO'd the cows. So now today's modern dairy cow will give milk, even though she's pregnant with her next calf. They're still pulling milk off. She lactates all the way through her pregnancy. No other mammal does that. One reason why is that if you're a mother fox or a mother mink, and you've just had a litter of 8 kits, and half of them are males, the milk is full of estrogens. And when a woman, and when the milk gets, and when the female gets pregnant, her body surges with estrogens, and so the milk is extra heavy with that. You don't want to give that to the male offspring there. So when she conceives again, she stops ovulating because she knows the estrogens in her body are going to go way up. Well, because modern dairying is taking milk off pregnant cows, all pregnant now, the milk is full of estrogens, and these are not the puny little phytoestrogens in soy. These are official estrone, estradiol, estriol, pregnenolone, progesterone. These are official mammalian estrogens. And they have effects in the human body. When boys drink milk, the testosterone level goes down, guys as well. And all this estrogen, we're watching 10-year-old girls going into puberty at age, 8, 9, 10 years old. Would it be something to do with all this milk and cheese and ice cream and yogurt we're encouraging them to eat, filled with bovine estrogens? You follow these girls into womanhood, they get a nasty instance of breast cancer because they've been stimulating their breast tissue with estrogen since childhood. And the uterus responds, they get fibroids, and estrogens make the prostate gland unstable. And the more dairy a boy eats, more cheese and dairy the boy eats, the higher his risk of prostate cancer when he's an adult man. It's baby calf growth fluid. We have no more need for the milk of a cow than we need the milk of a giraffe. I asked my patient, would you pour dog milk on your cereal? Would you drink moose milk? Why do we think that cow milk is somehow magic? There's other places to get your calcium and protein.
Yes.
So I'm not a big dairy fan. Even though I milk a lot of cows, I'm not a big fan of dairying. And it's a cruel, dirty industry, and it's polluting to the environment. It's something that needs to go in our deep, dark past, like whaling and other things we used to do.
Yeah. I think it's really important that people can hear a story from somebody who's actually walked through it. I think it's really eye-opening, and I appreciate you sharing that. Okay, let's move on with some grab bag questions that I have regarding nutrition. Can you explain, Dr. Klaper, the Maillard reaction?
The Maillard reaction, Maillard was a chemist in France in the 1880s, and the baking industry asked him to please give us the chemistry of what happens when we bake bread. And what he understood was that if you take sugar and combine it with protein, the sugar sticks to the protein. It glycosylates it. And when you then heat this glycosylated protein up, it degenerates. The protein gets oxidized. The sugar changes configuration, and you create what's called advanced glycation end products. They're not friendly molecules. They are teeming with free radicals. They damage tissues throughout the body. And that's what to the baker, that's what baking bread is about. What's the sugar? It's the pastry flour. It's all the starch in the pastry flour. What's the protein? It's the wheat gluten. And you put the starch and the gluten together, and then you glycosylate the proteins, and you put it in the oven. Then you pull out this a loaf of rye bread with this nice dark crust. That dark crust is full of advanced glycation end products. You've heated glycosylated protein with sugar on it. And that's interesting for if you're a baker, but when we consume free sugars, whether it's drinking a cola drink, eating a vegan muffin, a vegan donut, coffee cake, we're flooding our tissues full of sugars. The sugars then latch on to proteins in our body, to your hemoglobin, to the protein in the lens of your eye, the protein in the elastin fibers of your skin, proteins everywhere. And so now you've got protein with sugar on it, glycosylated proteins. What happens if we heat it? Where can we get the heat? Your own body provides 98.6 degrees Fahrenheit. It's a low-grade baking oven there. So when you flood your tissues with sugar, your own body heat then runs the Maillard reaction on your proteins, and that opens the door to cataracts and to aged skin, and the inner lining of your blood vessels start to thicken, and that may play a role in Alzheimer's, dementia. We shouldn't be, the main lesson, we shouldn't be eating sugar as a food. It's a flavoring, for a teaspoon of maple syrup in your tea. But when you're eating a candy bar or a muffin you're eating a chunk of sugar as a food, it was never meant to be eaten like that. If you want something sweet, have a mango, have some grapes. They've got vitamins and minerals and much healthier forms of sweetness than eating sugar as a food. And finally, the last kicker, I was surprised when I saw all the advanced glycation end products from the vegan baked goods and potato chips. Of course, you're putting a starch into hot oil. Boy, that's a good way to create AGEs. But it turns out the majority of AGEs that people eat turns out is coming from cooked animal muscle. By putting that chicken breast on the griller or that steak under the broiler, you are creating vast amounts of these AGEs. So it's actually the meat-based diet that ages us worse than anything. But vegan junk foods and the vegan baked goods, etc., not your friend either.
Yeah, and AGEs, those are endotoxins, correct?
AGEs, advanced glycation end products. Endotoxin, something else.
Okay. I want to go through that right now. Actually, I want to go through the meat specific toxins. I have them listed out for you. So, sometimes the heterocyclic amines and all of the things they start to swirl around, and I kind of smush them together. So, the AGEs, yes. And I like how you have taught before, and I've learned probably maybe through the Real Truth About Health conference, which I think people need to listen to. But AGEs, it's a great way to remember that they age you. Okay. It's just, they age your cells. So we're going to talk about meat specific toxins. And I'm just going to list, I'll just say it. And then if you can elaborate on it.
Okay.
Oxidized cholesterol.
Yeah, nobody eats raw meat, and the very act of grilling a burger or broiling the steak, frying the chicken, oxidizes the cholesterol, rips electrons. To oxidize something rips electrons off it. And it's easy to oxidize cholesterol, and it's the oxidized cholesterol particles that are the most atherogenic. They're the ones that burrow into the wall of the artery and set off atherosclerotic plaque formation. So you sure don't want to be eating anybody else's oxidized cholesterol, and that's what happens when we eat animal muscle. So it's a major player in the formation of atherosclerotic plaques that lead to heart attacks and strokes.
Okay. And what about reactive aldehydes?
Yeah, when you cook animal muscle, you cook that chicken leg or the beefsteak, the nucleic acids in the DNA of the animal's muscles, that oxidizes and it releases these reactive aldehydes, glyaxol and acrolein, and these damage your genes. They damage your DNA, and your DNA is what's calling forth the enzymes in your cells that does your biochemistry. You don't want to send a surge of aldehydes through your tissues with a meat-based meal to disrupt your DNA molecules and your enzyme function. So these aldehydes, people don't talk about them, but they're part of the destructive gang of molecular marauders that floods through the tissues with every meat-based meal.
Yes. Okay. What about new
5-GC?
Yes.
Right. This is a sialic acid that only animals make. People eating a plant-based diet don't never eat this stuff. But if you're eating animals, you're eating new 5-GC. It's a sialic acid that's very pro-inflammatory in our body. If you stain for it, you can see it in the inflammatory lesions in rheumatoid arthritic joints and the atherosclerotic plaques. It's a very pro-inflammatory molecule. You don't want to be eating it 3 times a day like our paleo friends do. And I think they wind up with more inflammation because of it.
And endotoxins.
Endotoxin comes from the slaughterhouse. All animals, even organic grass-fed beef, they all pass through the slaughterhouse, get the throats cut, and as the digestive system is removed from the carcass, you inevitably have spillage of the gut bacteria, and you can take a culture tube and swab any cutting surface in the meatpacking plant, and you'll grow E. coli, Salmonella, Shigella, Pseudomonas, Enterobacter, the whole rogues gallery of pathogenic bacteria. Well, so every steak and chop and chicken breast that leaves the meatpacking plant has a covering of these bacteria on the surface, as was cut on the table. It's wrapped in clear plastic, sent to your supermarket. And in the meat case, the ultraviolet light shines down and kills the bacteria, yay. But as those bacteria die, their cell walls break up. and it releases this lipopolysaccharide called endotoxin. This is nasty stuff. Any of you doctors who spend time in the ICU dealing with people in endotoxic shock from what's coming from their gut knows endotoxin very well. It's a lethal toxin. And it clots your blood, it releases histamine, releases free radicals, depresses your heart, nasty molecule, endotoxin. Well, it's heat stable. Cooking the burger doesn't get rid of the endotoxin. So if you're eating a meat-based meal, you're giving yourself a shot of endotoxin 3 times a day, and it makes your endotoxin makes the gut leaky. It increases in intestinal permeability. So that allows food proteins and bacterial proteins to leak in your bloodstream and set off autoimmune disease. Endotoxin is inherent in a meat-based meal. There shouldn't be any endotoxin on broccoli.
Okay. All right. And TMAO, I feel like this one is something that I don't know how everybody doesn't know about TMAO yet, regardless if you are getting your neighbor's cows on an organic pasture raised, like it's there. So please explain this.
Absolutely. And put a tail on that one. Even the lab-fed meat, the cultured meats is still going to spawn TMAO. What is it? The food we eat determines the microbes that live in our gut. If you eat a bunch of sugar, you're going to summon up sugar-eating microbes in your gut. Mm-hmm. Well, you eat meat every day and eggs every day. You're eating molecules called in the muscle called carnitine and the egg called choline. And all this choline and carnitine summons up microbes that eat choline and carnitine. Their names are Streptococci and Clostridia. Well, they don't care about you. They're waiting for that next chicken breast or salmon steak to come down, and they will turn the choline and the carnitine into a molecule called trimethylamine, which as it passes through your liver oxidizes it to trimethylamine oxide, TMAO. So what? This is a molecule from hell. This drives cholesterol into the artery wall. It keeps good HDL from taking the cholesterol out of the artery wall. And it's associated with early death and even cancer growth. And when they look at the folks eating paleo diets and check their TMAO levels, surprise, surprise, it's sky high. And the studies are clear. If you do a search on TMAO and all-cause mortality, you'll see the folks walking around the high TMAO levels die earlier and harder, nastier deaths there. So it's another violation of natural laws. We're not carnivorous apes. We're plant-eating hominids, like our gorilla and bonobo cousins up in the trees are, and we got the same digestive system. So we no other primates eats flesh 3 times a day, and when we do that, we wind up paying the price by spawning microbes that don't serve us well.
Yeah, I think it's just really important to make sure that people know that the TMAO is coming from that choline in the eggs. And, like, even though eggs might be a concentrated source of nutrients, like eating them every single day is not going to benefit your health. You know me by now. I really like to lean in on natural medicine and herbal immune support, which is why my family and I love to use Organic Green Growers elderberry syrup. Elderberry is an immune modulating herb and one which can be rated super high on the ORAC value, which measures antioxidant capacity. The pre-made elderberry syrup and DIY elderberry syrup kits are blended with anti-inflammatory plants that upgrade the holistic elderberry experience. Visit greengrowers.farm/shop and use code HOLISTIC to enjoy a 20% discount and free shipping today. Thanks to Green Growers Farm for sponsoring this episode. Back to the show. Let's move on to carcinogenic heterocyclic amines.
Yes, when you put that steak on the broiler, when you drop that, when you put the burger on the grill there, where the hot surface is contacting the muscles, there, the oxidation takes place is astounding. And you're inevitably going to create these molecules called heterocyclic amines. And these are carcinogens. You smear it on skin or mucous membranes again and again and again. And it sets off cancers. It damages the DNA and spawns cancers. And so the meat eaters, as the stuff sits in the stomach and rubs on the same spot on the stomach wall, they get a higher incidence of stomach cancers. Now, this rides all the way through the intestine. And smears on their colon wall, and they get a higher incidence of colon cancer. Winds up in the urine, they get a higher incidence of kidney cancers. It's a carcinogen, and no other animal grills its steaks, and yet we do this, and we wind up, it may taste good for that minute in your mouth there, but you've just eaten a mouthful of carcinogens, and they get more oral cancers too. So it's a carcinogen caused from cooking the animal flesh. When you steam broccoli, you don't create them.
Thank you. And how about heme iron?
Heme iron makes red meat red, and the bodybuilder's guy, I want my red meat, get my iron, make me strong and macho there. But problem, iron comes in two forms. Yes, heme iron is in the muscle of animals. The problem is we can't keep it out of the body. When you eat that meat, you're going to that iron barges through across the intestinal membrane into your iron stores, even if they're full of iron already. And so that opens the door to what's called iron overload, and that increases risk of strokes and cancers. Won't go into all the mechanisms behind it. But that's the problem with heme iron. You, especially as guys, we don't lose iron, unlike menstruating women. And so we are, and postmenopausal women, we wind up with iron overload for eating this red meat. Can you get iron from plants? Absolutely. Ask Popeye, when he needed to get extra strength, what did he do? He opened a can of spinach, right? Well, now why? Because spinach has iron to build up as hemoglobin. But the good thing, but this is non-heme iron, this is plant iron. Mm-hmm. And the body can keep that out. If your iron stores are all full and you eat a bunch of spinach, you're not going to wind up with iron overload. It's a much more natural physiologic kind of source of iron there. So heme iron is not your friend. Get your iron from plants, from dried fruits and dark green leafy vegetables.
Mm-hmm. Okay. And then I want to preface this last one before I say what it is with even though you may be getting a cleaner piece of animal protein from your local farmer, or they aren't using herbicides, pesticides, etc. This issue is still there. And at the end of the day, the animal is still dying. And even though you are supporting maybe a more regenerative farm, it's still using so many resources. So can you explain more about bioconcentrated pesticides, herbicides, heavy metals, hormones, and antibiotics?
Yeah, this whole idea of regenerative farming, it's another marketing ploy there to keep the animal industry polluting the planet and hurting us in so many ways there. And I'm not shaking my finger at the individual farmer. They're trying to do a good job and feed their family. Yeah. But first of all, let's call it for what it is. It's a niche little greenwash marketing phrase to make people feel better about eating animal muscle, animal flesh. But the vast majority of Americans pushing that cart down the aisle at Kroger's and Safeway are not buying biodynamically raised meat. This is coming off factory farms and intensive feedlot units where tonight there's hundreds of millions of cows and pigs and chickens and turkeys in these anonymous sheds scattered along the hillsides of America. They're living lives of complete misery. And as soon as their flesh gets to be eating size, they suffer these dreadful fates there. And along the way, and to fatten them up, they are fed bushels of commercially produced grains by the soybean farmers and the corn farmers in Iowa and Illinois and Minnesota, who spray tons of Roundup and aldicarb and various pesticides on the corn and the soybeans that inevitably winds up in the animal feed, and the animals sitting in the soil just eating bushels of grains every day. Well, those pesticides accumulate in the animal's muscle. And so when you bite into that chicken breast or that pork chop or that beef steak, you're eating the accumulated pesticides and herbicides and antibiotics and growth promoters that animal was fed. And so it bioconcentrates in the animal's flesh over its lifetime. That's the reality for the vast majority of Americans. Right. And the 200 million, 300 million people cannot eat biodynamically pasture-raised meat. It's a joke, It's
right.
It's not a reality.
Right. Okay. So saturated fat, I'm very confused about it. Can you just explain, there's actually one specific doctor that I follow that teaches about lifestyle, but he preaches that we have to have more animal saturated fat and more sodium. And it makes me crazy. We don't even need to talk about the sodium at this moment. Can you just explain to me why increasing our saturated fat is not the way we want to go? And he's not even a carnivore, by the way. He is, yeah. So anyways, I've seen it from multiple people. And can you explain?
So he's advocating more saturated or unsaturated fat?
More saturated, more meat, more meat. But he's also affiliated with a butcher. So anyways, but more meat, more sodium is what he's saying is going to heal everyone. So,
you see these vegan athletes, you see these vegan folks living into their 90s and 100s. What is the purpose of adding more meat to the diet? What is he saying? Why in the world would we need that? I mean, if you want more saturated fats, eat more coconuts and avocados. You can do that if you want to increase your saturated fat intake. But I don't know if that's necessarily healthy for your arteries, etc. But I would have to read the science about that, whatever he's promoting there. But if you want more fats, you eat more coconut and avocado. But the body seems to work pretty well. Ask all these vegan athletes on a plant-based diet. So I would need to see a scientific rationale for that.
Yeah, there is no links when he posts. But okay, thank you for that. Can you explain to me what happens when we eat animal foods for breakfast, lunch, and dinner? How, we have this 4-hour window.
Yeah, really.
What's happening?
When you eat a meal in the standard Western, have bacon and eggs for breakfast. All the saturated fat in the bacon and the egg yolk and in the whatever you fried it in, and the butter on the toast that went with it. The classic breakfast. At that point, a wave of fat goes through your bloodstream, and your blood turns fatty for a good 4 to 5 hours until your liver can start clearing it out of there. During that time, the endothelial lining of the artery wall is injured, and that opens the door to atherosclerosis. The fats go through the adipocytes, the fat cells on your belly, and increase abdominal obesity. The fat, meal after meal after meal, works its way into the muscle cells and liver cells and starts clogging up the enzymes of your insulin receptors and creates insulin resistance. So blood sugars go up. And saturated fats are pro-inflammatory. Whatever that other doctor is promoting, they drive inflammatory reactions throughout the body. So you keep a low-grade inflammatory fire going into tissues by some of these surges of saturated fats meal after meal. How can that be healthy? And again, it takes about 4 or 5 hours. So you have an 8 a.m. breakfast of bacon and eggs. Your blood is still fatty by noontime when you go have your cheeseburger and fries, and that keeps your blood fatty all afternoon. It starts going down by 6 in the evening, but by that time you're visiting the Colonel and chomping on your buffalo wings and your KFCs. And so your blood's fatty all evening, and then on the way back to the bedroom, we polish off a half pint of ice cream in the freezer. And most Americans are keeping their blood fatty all day. And as I said, it opens the door to heart attacks, strokes, diabetes, inflammatory diseases. No other primate does it. No gorilla eats like that. No bonobo eats like that. And now we're puzzled why we're in the middle of an epidemic of obese people with clogged arteries and high blood pressure and type 2 diabetes and a host of inflammatory diseases. How could that all have befallen us in the last 50 years, the space of my medical career? This swamp of disease has grown up around us. It's the food, folks. Yeah. It's the food we're eating. I've got a plaque on the wall.
Yeah, that's your saying. I love it.
Exactly. And this used to hang on my wall. In my office. It's the food. It's been the food all along. And that's the key thing. All this bad diets and stuff. It's eat whole plants. You wind up lean and healthy and stay out of the clutches of people like me.
Yes. All right. I have just a few more questions, Dr. Klaper. Can you talk about the benefits of eating starch and why we should not fear carbohydrates, but really how that gets lost because carbs are labeled as not the correct carbs.
Right. Oh my, that's so sad. And a little bit of knowledge is a dangerous thing. And this certainly has happened with carbohydrates in the diet. We are carbohydrate burning organisms. The mitochondria in all your cells burn glucose preferentially as the fuel that runs your muscles. We're sugar eating creatures. And the beauty about, now I'm saying white sugar, I'm saying the natural sugars in the starches that you mentioned. The green plants make sugar molecules from the carbon dioxide in the air, the water in the rain, and the sunlight. They form it into these rings called glucose, and there's stored energy in there. And when we eat the glucose, we get the energy back chemically. But the plant needs to store those sugar molecules. The potato plant needs to get through the winter, so it packs the root system full of these sugar molecules, but they link them together in long chains. So these long chains of sugar molecules are called starch, but they're basically sugar in a stable form. The rice plant, the corn plant, all grains take sugars and they pack it around the new seedling, and that's what we eat as corn and rice. But it's the starch that we're after for the calories. And the beauty about carbohydrates, it's such an undeserved bad reputation, is that they are clean burning fuels. When you break apart a glucose ring to get the energy, all you wind up with is carbon dioxide that you breathe out for the plants to use, and water that you pee out through the kidneys. It's a clean burning fuel. And so it is our preferential fuel. And folks who eat high carbohydrate diets around the world, in China, they eat a lot of rice, and before Western food got there, they were lean, healthy folks, despite eating 2 pounds of rice a day. And the Incas and the Andes grew up, their whole culture thrived on potatoes. They ate, a significant amount of potatoes daily. The Okinawans still do. So starches are not to be feared, and they will not turn into fat. The body is not going to blow apart a glucose ring, grab the fragments, and then string them together as a long-chain fatty acid with dozens of enzymes. The body's not going to do that. If you eat a high-starch meal, and the first thing that will happen, if you have some rice and potatoes for dinner, the sugar will get in your blood. The body will put it into your muscles and tissues that need stored sugar. We don't store it as starch. We store it as a similar molecule called glycogen. And when we use our muscles, we burn down the glycogen. When we eat starches at dinner, we replete the glycogen in our muscle stores. It's like the battery in a hybrid car. And so we draw down on it, the carbohydrates, and then we replace them as we eat our rice and beans, etc. It's a clean burning fuel. And as I said, if your tissues are all full of glycogen and you eat some potato and rice for dinner, what happens? Is it going to turn into fat? No. Your body will burn that off as heat. Your blood temperature go up 1/4 degree. You'll stick your foot out from the covers at night and it'll radiate that heat off into space there. They won't turn into fat. And people eat lots of potatoes, lots of rice, as long as they're not eating a bunch of fat with it, as long as they're not putting margarine on their baked potato or pouring oil on their pasta. That fat sugar combo, that will stick to you. The body will burn the sugar and store the fats for later. So oil on your pasta is a great way to become a fat vegan.
Yeah.
Vegan baked goods, they are flour and fat. They are sugar and fat. That's what there's the sugar in the flour, and there's some fat, some margarine, some coconut oil, something's holding that sugar together. So it's that fat sugar combo that sticks to us. But starches in their whole plant form are clean burning fuels, not to be feared.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. And SOS free lifestyle, salt, oil, and sugar free. This is actually the way that I create my recipes. This is how I teach. I want to talk just really quickly about salt, if you don't mind. Do you think that for the generalized person, that not somebody who's outside sweating for hours running marathons, but like the general American person, not necessarily somebody that even has high blood pressure, but like, do you think, well, they definitely don't need exogenous forms of salt. Do you think that we need extra salt in our diet, or do you think that the plants are providing the correct amount of sodium that we need?
That's a very astute question. For the vast 98% of people, there's enough sodium in the food that you don't need to add any more. And then certain foods, celery, etc., provides extra sodium if you like it. So the sodium intake usually isn't an issue. There are some people, I've run into some lean, skinny, vegan, usually women, whose blood pressure is really low. They stand up and they get lightheaded. Their blood pressure drops. And these folks benefit from a little extra salt in the diet. It's medicinal for them. And they must lose more sodium out in their urine. For some reason, they benefit from extra salt. So if you're in that situation, only if you're in that situation, you're a lean plant-eating person getting lightheaded when you stand up, and your blood pressure is 90/60, then you might benefit from a little bit of salt. But that's a rare person. The vast majority of people, we are eating so much sodium. And it's not in the salt shaker on your table there. It's in the restaurant foods. It's already in the spaghetti sauce at the Italian restaurant. It's in the soy sauce at the Chinese restaurant. It's in the frozen dinners. It's in the sauces and gravies you're buying. That's where all the salt is coming from. And it hurts us. It raises our blood pressure, increases stroke risk, as well as opening the door to autoimmune diseases, we now know. It activates Th17 helper cells that open the door to lupus, etc. So the most of us need. I'm a recovering saltaholic. I love salty foods, but I have to really throttle back and learn how to entertain my salt cravings with non-salty foods and flavorings. And so I've been a big fan. I squeeze lemon juice on almost everything where I would put salt. We've got a nice assortment of balsamic vinegars, and we'll put them on vegetables and other places where you use a salty flavoring. There's a lovely flavoring called Benson's Table Tasty. It's nutritional yeast with some herbs in it that can provide a salt satisfaction. If the person just Googles, homemade salt substitutes, you can grind your own. There's lots of ways to, and your taste buds change. I'm less of a salt craver than I used to be. So it's something to throttle back for most folks.
Yeah. California balsamic really helped us with that. I know that you know about California balsamic and all of those amazing flavors. And sumac. Sumac is very salty flavoring. That is, if you haven't tried sumac, Dr. Klaper, you need to do that. I'm sure it's very high in anthocyanins, probably because it's, well, maybe not. I'm not sure. It's not super purple, but it's a bright red berry, and it actually grows across the entire United States. And I just found it just literally outside of our neighborhood a few days ago, and when we were hiking in the Adirondacks this summer. But it's used typically in a spice called za'atar, which is typically oregano or thyme with sesame seeds and sumac, and that is the flavoring that they'll put on like flatbreads. So, anyways, sumac itself is very salty flavoring, and it's very lemony. So I think that you would absolutely love it. So you need to try it. I even did a recipe on Chef AJ with sumac in there. It's really good. And now she loves it, and everybody's using sumac. So you need to get on the sumac.
Thank you. I'll check it out. Thank you.
Yes, you're welcome.
My world there.
And speaking of Chef AJ, your wife, Elise, did a virtual yoga class offering in the Ultimate Weight Loss Bundle that I was part of. And by the way, my son loved that class. It was, he just sat for like the whole hour he did it, and he's only 5. It was incredible. But I wanted to just ask you, as we wrap up, we really are wrapping up. What does a day in your life look like? It's just ever since I saw your wife, and I know who you are, but ever since I saw your wife and how she does yoga, and I'm like, okay, are they waking up and are they like doing yoga together? Are they drinking herbal teas? What does a regular day in your life look like in terms of just lifestyle and eating?
I hate to tell you, yes, we wake up and do yoga and then have a cup of herbal tea. And we just,
oh my God.
She just got one that we brought back from Phoenix last week.
That is so funny.
We do that frequently. Yes, I mean, I'm married to a yoga teacher,
Amazing.
and I've just turned 75 years old. How the heck did that happen? And man, you want to keep that spine limber. You want to keep that neck moving. You don't want to tighten up here. And so yoga has become more and more important. So it's a great time for us to be able to share our morning together. So yes, we do that. And,
I love that. Are there any specific herbal teas, before you tell me what you eat? Are there any specific herbs that you use on a daily basis? That was kind of a question. So is there anything that you love in particular?
Right. Well, she's a big matcha tea fan, and we've run into this nice mushroom teas, various types, mushroom coffee and mushroom teas. And she just got a bancha tea, I think branches, twigs, and so I'm looking. I just saw that in the pantry closet today there, so. Looking forward to tasting that, but left my own. I'm a big rooibos fan and a morning spice guy, orange spice. I like that tea as well.
Yum. Awesome. Okay. Thank you for sharing. And then I know that your daily diet is you really do like salads and you like soups. And are you a big starch person? I'm a huge starch person. My husband's a huge starch person. I mean, he works his corporate job and then goes out and farms, does all the crops at night. So he's like loving the starch. Like we just love our sweet potatoes.
Yeah. You bet. Oh, I'm a starchaholic there. I love, and I'm a big quinoa. I could live on quinoa and steamed kale, with a little balsamic on it. And but we love sweet potatoes. They're always welcome visitors there. And eating less rice because of the arsenic, but getting into other grains, so farro and millet and. We went to an Ethiopian restaurant, brought back some injera teff bread. That's lovely as well. So yes, yay, starches.
Yes. Okay, wonderful. And we know that you are serving the next generation of doctors through Moving Medicine Forward, which we already talked about. And I took your series in plant-based clinical nutrition. And I can't say enough good things about it. So with this program that you're doing, Dr. Klaper, do you feel like there's hope?
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Yes, you have to have hope. There's so much darkness around us here, but every young doctor that we can turn on, once you look behind the curtain, you can't pretend you don't know what's behind the curtain. Plant-based nutrition will reverse these diseases, doctor. Do you want to heal these patients or just manage their chronic disease? If you want to heal them, get real about why they're sitting in front of you because of what they're eating. Once they hear that, nothing looks the same when they go to outpatient clinic, they go to a cardiology clinic, they now know what the disease model is about and how to reverse it. And I say, don't make waves with your professors, but when you get out into practice medicine like you know it should be practiced. Practice plant-based medicine. And each one of these young doctors over their career will reach thousands of patients. Any given year, a standard family doctor has about 2,000 patients. But year after year, the patients change and they see more and more. And so every doctor can influence thousands and thousands of people who in turn will influence their families and their neighbors. And so absolutely, it's as I said, it's been a real bottleneck, but I'm looking to turn it into a fountain of good eating and good health.
Well,
yes, I have hope.
Good. And keep the hope, because you're a disruptor in the best way possible. And we need it. And we need to disrupt this industry and keep us healthy moving forward as human beings. It's so important. And I am so thankful for the work that you do. And I ask every person this is the final question, and then we are done. What does holistic living mean to you, Dr. Klaper?
Holistic living means living a life in accord with the laws of nature around us and within us, and guided by the call of the human heart. We're here to be kind. We're here to love. We're here to make this a better world and help each other. And so if you manifest that using the laws of healthy eating and healthy living, I think you're living a holistic life, and everyone benefits, including the animals and the planet and everyone around you.
I love it. So, so good. That is where we will end. I appreciate you so much, Dr. Klaper. Thank you, and be well.
Thank you, and to all your listeners, thank you for your time, and be well and be happy.
I'm over here cheering you on because you just finished another episode of The Urban Pharmacy. For today's show notes, head on over to theurbanpharmacy.com and be sure to join us inside our private Facebook group called The Urban Pharmacy, where we share inspiration, live trainings, and holistic living tips to help you build community and the healthy lifestyle that you've always wanted. If you enjoyed today's episode, make sure you hit that subscribe button and please consider leaving us a 5-star review. Before we connect again on the next show, follow me on Instagram at The Urban Pharmacy. That's urban with an H and pharmacy with an F. And I can't wait to hear your wellness journey as we get to know each other better. You know, there's truly no better time than now to level up your life, and I am so proud of you for showing up today. Until next time, be well, Health Crusader.